Those occasions, we usually told our road manager, Linda Rogoff, to whip out the plastic and charge everything to David. Was any of y'all fucking David? He wouldn't call in the Pointer Sisters to do. Look at this thing. Where is he going? To use the bathroom? Lolo! Lo! What are you doing? What are you doing, Pooh? We not only did the Helen Reddy show a handful of times, but also performed on the Flip Wilson show. So the other day, I was talking to BFF, and you know this girl had the audacity to ask me, do you know who Geraldine is? I said, bitch, stop playing with me. Y'all forgive me, because these mowers and leaf blowers and stuff like that, they just come to the community randomly. The Flip Wilson show, the Carl Burnett show, and the Cher show. We performed an epic dance medley of songs from the big band swing era with Cher, actress Terry Garr, and comedian Freddie Prinze. Think Chico and the Man. We performed an epic dance medley of songs from the big band swing era with Cher, actress Terry Garr, and comedian Freddie Prinze, which was later nominated for an Emmy. The bookings came so fast that when Johnny Carson people called to get us for the Tonight Show, we couldn't fit it in our schedule, and David had to politely decline. Like, wait a minute, this is Johnny Carson calling. That's just like the Soul Train calling. Oh, hello, this is Don Cornelius. We need you to be on the Soul Train. What? Anybody who is anybody for the blacks appear on Soul Train. You don't get to Soul Train when you get ready to go on a Soul Train. Just like you don't go on Johnny Carson when you get ready to go on a Johnny Carson. No, it's Johnny Carson calling. Bring Johnny Carson. Okay, sir, we'll be there, sir. When the Pointer Sisters LP was released, less than a month after our Troubadour debut, Blue Thumb took out a full-page ad in Billboard announcing our arrival. The reviews were rapturous. So before social media, people had to actually pay for a page in magazines to promote whatever it is or buy commercials. Literally, y'all. You know how we find our new music via TikTok or Instagram. You know, you be watching a funny meme or a TikTok challenge and we be like, ooh, I like this song. It's got a funky beat and I can dance to it. Back then, you literally had to buy a commercial to promote your album. Back in the day in Washington, D.C., in order for you to find out where your favorite band was going to be playing that particular week, we had to go outside and search on different trees or lamp posts. In the community were posters letting us know where our favorite band was going to be playing that week. For instance, Tuesday night, Rare Essence would be at Cherry's. Thursday night, Chuck Brown would be at the Ibex. And we would know that because posters were randomly posted throughout the community on a tree or a lamppost or a phone pole. Later that summer, Yes We Can reached the top 10. And our follow-up single, Willie Dixon's Wang Dang Doodle, backed by the Rowdy Hoodoo Rhythm Devils and featuring the scorching guitar work of John Rewind, also charted. By the time our album was certified gold, that would be 500,000 copies sold, the Pointer Sisters had toured the USA several times over, sharing a double bill with Chicago. That's a band. The Pointer Sisters had toured the USA several times over, sharing a double bill with Chicago, and became the most talked about act of the year. Child, guess who's coming up next? You know you can't have a book without talking about little Steveland. Little Steveland came in the room, bumping along. He found Anita. Anita, I like all your sisters, but I like you the best. They said that he was flirting with all the girls, but he liked Anita the best. Anita, thank you to Jesus that your ass ain't get tied up with that Steveland, because he could have impregnated your girl. And you would have never been able to get rid of Steveland. Steveland did write and produce for them. He eventually came through with 2 numbers. Sleeping Alone, which appeared on our 1975 album, Steppin', and the jazzy Bring Your Sweet Stuff Home on 1977's Having a Party. In Europe, folks like Rod Stewart, Ron Wood, The Kinks, Ray Davies, Traffic Jim Capaldi, and Neil Sedaka all paid their respects, as did jazz greats like Annie Ross. By the end of that tumultuous summer, the Pointer Sisters may not have been a household name like the Beatles or Speedy Alka-Seltzer. You know, plop, plop, fizz, fizz, oh, what a relief it is. Alka-Seltzer. But, as Bonnie famously quipped, we definitely were the biggest thing to come out of Oakland since the Black Panthers. Fame strikes, coming out of nowhere at warp speed sometimes. It doesn't really matter how long you've worked hard for it, planned for it. It still blindsides you. Struggling to make it big takes everything out of you. You just never feel like you are truly getting anywhere, although somewhere inside you, you know that you are. The you that you used to know becomes riddled with the pride of success, a false sense of security, and the knowledge that you can make it if you push your body hard enough up that mountain. And then the high hits you like a lack of oxygen at its peak. For me, that high lasted years, messing with my head as crevices threatened to trip me up. I often found myself tumbling down the backside, sometimes just barely hanging on with my fingertips along the edge, ready to fall, with the illusion that there was something warm and cushiony ready to pick me up and carry me to safety. Girl, that's called drugs. I'm not even trying to make fun of it, but child, in that moment, whatever it is you taking will make you feel better. You hear me? And if it don't, then you're going to put a little bit of something else on top of it. Okay, I'll move forward. In reality, you snowball down that mountain with little to break your fall through the forest canopy of fame and addiction. It slowly and painfully breaks you. I began losing myself in drugs, alcohol, and parties pretty much from the start. Everything was happening at rocket speed once we hit. People were everywhere, many terrible influences, and it was open season on the superstar. The Pointer Sisters were on the road so much there was hardly any time to reflect and get centered. I was being shoved along, going with the flow, getting deeper and deeper into hard partying. Everybody was doing it. It was like you were the odd person out if you didn't get blazed drunk or worse. Snitch the baker. Snitch the baker. I was out with one of my girlfriends. You people who've been around for a while, you know this story. The one that was younger who drove me freaking crazy. My girlfriend's friends was like, "Do you want to go in the bathroom with me and do some special K?" I'm like, "Special K? Like the syrup?" I took that shit so serious. I said, "I gotta go. You need to take me home." Because I ain't never been around no type of friends. Ever. Never, ever, ever. That have invited me to do drugs. I had a lover to say to me that I couldn't be with him if I did not smoke weed. Okay, with him. Okay, well, that won't be me, because I don't trust you, nigga. You might be like DMX in Hard to Kill. Was it Hard to Kill? What was the name of that movie where he got his uppity girlfriend hooked on heroin? You know what I'm talking about. I had been the strange one, the odd duck, the preacher's daughter for so many years, and I didn't want to be the strange one anymore. So I did what everybody else did to fit in. I also did whatever it took to keep the train a-rolling, sometimes at great personal sacrifice. But at the time, it didn't matter. The gravy train kept rolling in as fast as I threw it out. Now dig this. They on a Johnny Carson show performing, but guess what? Bob Newhart was hosting. Do you know how blown I would be to be on a Johnny Carson show? And who was it that was filling in all the time for him? Bob Newhart, Joan Rivers. Joan Rivers I would have been okay with. I forget who else. Oh, Jay Leno. Child, they said they got there. They were so disappointed. I mean, okay, Bob Newhart. Nice to meet you, Bob Newhart. But goddamn, I'm here to see the Johnny Carson. Not you, Mr. Newhart. Y'all remember Bob Newhart. He actually had a television show. I think it was on CBS. Being able to make a living doing what you love is the ultimate fantasy for everybody. But behind the fantasy are misconceptions. Being able to read books with someone or people that enjoy reading as much as I do is beautiful. I mean, absolutely beautiful. And now that I have this part-time job, the fact that it's not my bread and butter makes it even more enjoyable for me. So for those of you who hang around and listen to me read these books and still contribute to the book club monthly, I appreciate you so much. Okay? You know, I mean, it just takes the pressure off of everyone, I believe. Being able to make a living doing what you love is the ultimate fantasy for anybody. But behind the fantasy are misconceptions. It's not only lonely at the top, but it's also lonely on the road. The high point of each 24-hour day was the 60 to 75 minutes spent on stage, on tour. Their first stop was Washington, D.C. Then they made their way to Boston's Pall Mall in a blizzard. After the show, we discovered our band's coats had been stolen, and they had to walk back to the hotel in the freezing cold and were shivering by the time we got to the lobby. It put a bad taste in our mouth for Beantown for several years. From there, we played at the famed Continental Baths in New York, where we cemented our bond with our gay followers. After that, we headlined at Mr. Kelly's in Chicago, got stiffed by the owner, and were forced to sue to get our money. We sure played some shady places and paid serious dues in those early days. We figured that our growing celebrity entitled us to plenty of freebies, limos, hotel rooms, champagne, clothes, juries, but everything has a price tag of one kind or another. It was unusual to find out that in addition to paying for things we thought were on the house, there was a special celebrity tax tacked on. One time, a dry cleaner to the stars who'd gotten a fabulous write-up in Vogue magazine charged us $1,200 for cleaning 15 dresses. We had to sue him to get a more reasonable deal. Y'all ain't got no Jefferson cleaners around there? Why the hell would you even go to the cleaners of the stars? No. If I'm leaving the impression that we spent lots of time poring over contracts and invoices, tapping calculator keys, and consulting lawyers and accountants, that's my bad. We were too busy living it up and thinking it was all on somebody else's dime. Pay attention. Ruth is being honest with us. You have so many celebrities that be like, oh, I got dicked in my first contract. Sometimes I believe that these people were taken advantage of. Sometimes I believe that the managers / road managers / label execs believe that taking advantage of their artists the first go round is a rite of passage. But I don't know why somebody would actually believe that a person would just fork over all this money for you for nothing and that you don't have to pay it back. Why would you think if you be like, oh, I want this bling, blah, 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 like the rappers. Because you know the rappers believe that buying all this bling, fancy clothes is investing into themselves, into their image, like driving the Lamborghinis or the other fabulousness cars. Okay? But what you think that the person that manages you or the record company is just like, here go $100,000, buy this chain for nothing, and you're not sleeping with the record exec? I don't understand why people believe that. You have to pay them people back for all the money that you have spent of theirs. And I'm glad that Ruth is breaking it down. We were too busy living it up and thinking it was all on somebody else's dime. We cleaned out many a minibar and ordered room service whenever we felt like it. Who you think is going to pay for that? You think the record company is just going to allow you to just keep spending up their money? Okay, we doing good this album, but what about next album? What about the album after that? See why now some of these people get dropped. Record companies be in the hole by the time they get through their second album. We gotta let you go, bitch. You done spent up way too much of our money. We're considering you a loss now. We cleaned out many a minibar and ordered room service whenever we felt like it. We went on some shopping sprees that put Imelda Marcos to shame. On those occasions, we usually told our road manager, Linda Rogoff, to whip out the plastic and charge everything to David. Was any of y'all fucking David? I suppose it was our juvenile way of sticking it to the man. But it was just another thing that came back to bite us in the ass. David was our friend and manager, but he wasn't nobody's fool. His 20% management fee came right off the top of whatever we were paid. That was free and clear income for David. The remaining 80% sounds like a lot until you factor in all the bills and the overhead that were our responsibility, not David's. Anything left had to be divided 4 ways. We weren't sticking it to him, but to ourselves. I don't know what you thought. Often as not, I'd come home from the road and have no money, literally none, because I had spent it all whooping it up and living the high life. Here's how bad it got. When we did our Las Vegas show at the Mirage years later, we had to actually take out a loan to pay for everything we needed, including new costumes, dancers, musicians, a stage director, a choreographer, a PR firm, ramps, hydraulic lifts, smoke, and lasers. You don't go to a thrift store with a list like that. And every cent came out of our end of the purse. Show business is also very hard on personal relationships, and I have the 5 marriages to prove it. My relationship with Carl Abrams, my second husband, was going just fine until success entered the equation. Well, I don't know about that, girl, because the fact that you stole him from June, knowing that June got, emotional issues, I don't know. That might be karma, Miss Ruth.